Hi scholars, Miss Yosef here, and welcome to our first of 2 video lessons this week. So in today's lesson, we're going to focus on pages 1 through 5 in the math section of your work packet. Pages 1 through 5 has the notes that we're going to talk about, as well as the independent practice that you're going to do at the end of this lesson, all right? Let's begin. So we're going to be talking about a coordinate plane, and a coordinate plane is very similar to a graph, and it has 2 parts to it. The first part is a horizontal line that is called your x-axis, all right? It's a horizontal line. The second part of a coordinate plane is a line that goes vertically, just like this, and this line is called your y-axis. So you have 2 lines going in different directions, the x-axis going horizontally, the y-axis going vertically. And the point where they meet in that middle, the point where they intersect, where that green dot is known as your origin. And the reason it's called your origin is because in the next few slides, when we start to plot points on this graph or the coordinate plane, we always start from the origin. That's why it's important. So always remember, the point where they meet is that origin. The origin is where we always start our work on the coordinate plane. It says it right here. The origin is where the x-axis and the y-axis intersect. So let's review that one more time really quickly before we start doing some guided practice on this coordinate plane, okay? I want you to name this line in your head. If you said the x-axis, you are correct. Now, I want you to name this line in your head. Take a few seconds. And if you said the y-axis, you are correct. Very good. If you did not, I want you to go back to the previous slide or rewind the video and listen to that explanation again about the names of the axes and the directions in which they go. Now I want you, one last one, to think to yourself what this point here is called, the point where the 2 lines meet or intersect at right angles. Now if you said the origin, you are correct. Very good. So we've talked about what the coordinate plane looks like with the x-axis and the y-axis and where the origin is and what it is. Now let's talk about how we write our numbers so that we can graph them on the coordinate plane. So we don't just write our numbers in the regular way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The way we write them when we're graphing on a coordinate plane is as an ordered pair. Now think of the word pair. The word pair means 2. Pair of shoes, 2 shoes. So when you're writing numbers for the coordinate plane, you write them in a special arrangement like this. 2 numbers separated by a comma, and you would read this as 4, 2. What do these numbers mean? Well, the number 4, the first number, tells us how far to travel on the x-axis. Remember, the x-axis is the horizontal line that looks like this. So the first number 4, really the first number in any ordered pair, tells you how far to travel on the x-axis starting from the origin. Now the second number, the 2, is always going to be the number that tells you about your y-axis. Remember, the y-axis is the line that goes vertically like this. And so that second number, the 2, will tell you how far to travel on that x-axis. Let's practice this, okay? So if I give you the coordinate pair 4, 2, how would I plot it? Well, right here is my coordinate plane with a grid. Remember this axis, I want you to think in your head what it is. If you said x, you're correct. I want you to think in your head what this axis is. And if you said y, you're also correct. And then I want you to think about where I could put a dot on this coordinate plane to figure out where my origin is, because we always start with our origin. And if you said right here, you are correct. Now let's talk about how we can plot 4, 2, because now I've set up my coordinate plane to graph. The first thing I need to think to myself is the origin. We just talked about that, right? We always start at our origin. And since 4 is the first number right here, I would travel 4 spaces to the right of the x-axis, just like this. Watch that yellow line. I started at the origin, and I ended up 4 spaces to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I talk about my second number, the number 2. The 2 is on the y-axis, and that means I need to travel 2 spaces up on my y-axis. But I need you to pay attention here. I am not going 2 spaces up this way from the origin. What I'm really doing is picking up from where I stopped on the x-axis right here. I hope you're looking at that red dot. And I'm using that as the next direction to go up by 2. So think of these as directions. First I go 4 and then I go 2. Watch that yellow line. I go up 2 spaces. And that dot right there is where I would plot 4, 2. Those are my directions to figure out where 4, 2 is. All right, I am going to give you some challenge problems. I will give you some ordered pairs. Remember, ordered pairs are those 2 numbers that we're plotting on the coordinate plane. And I want you to take a few seconds and think to yourself where on this coordinate plane I could plot those ordered pairs. The first one is, where would I plot 4, 1? Let me pull up little highlighter so you can see. So 4, 1, remember 4 is your x-axis coordinates, so you would go over 4 points or 4 spaces, and then 1 is your y-axis coordinate, so you would go up by 1. So think to yourself, and you can pause this if you need a little bit more time, that's okay. But if you said that the coordinate pair 4, 1 would be right there, you were correct. Let's do our next one. Where would I plot 7, 0? The ones with the zeros are a little bit tricky, but I want you to think to yourself, the 0 means that I probably would not move any spaces on that y-axis. Take a few seconds. And if you said that 7, 0 would be plotted there, then you're correct. And I want to talk about this one a little bit. So 7 is our x-axis coordinates, so I start at the origin right here, and I go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces on the x-axis. Now because the y-axis coordinate is 0, that means that I don't really need to go up by any spaces, I just stay where I am. That's why the 7, 0 is sitting on that axis. Let's do another one. Here it's asking you to plot 0, 4. So remember, you always start at the origin and then think about which direction it's asking you to go. And if you said that 0, 4 would be plotted there, you are correct. If you struggled with this one, that's okay. We can talk about this one too. So remember, you're starting at your origin right there where that yellow bar is. If you can't see it clearly, I'll change it. So right there where that red bar is, that's your origin, where the 2 lines are meeting. That's where you start. And so you're plotting 0, 4. 0 is my x-axis coordinate, which means that I don't really need to go over on the x-axis any spots because it's a 0. So I stay where I am. And then my y-axis coordinate is 4, and that means I would go up by 4 spots. So 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. Last one, think about where you could plot 9, 3 on the grid. Start at your origin, go over 9 spots, go over 3 spots. And if you said your coordinate point or your ordered pair would be plotted right there, you're correct. Remember, you start at the origin, go over 9 spots on the x-axis coordinate plane, x-axis, and then go up 3 spots on your y-axis. I want you to spend some time practicing this, okay? On your packet that you were given on Friday, or someone might have picked up from school, on page 3 is a blank coordinate plane that looks just like this. And I want you to plot the points that are in your packet on that coordinate plane. Your independent practice starts on page 3, but it continues on to page 4 and to page 5. So this is what it look like on page 3. On page 4 is your independent practice number 2. It asks you to plot these ordered pairs on that same coordinate plane that is on the previous page. And then on page 5, you have a third coordinate plane, except this time, instead of plotting the points, you're actually reading the points on the coordinate grid and figuring out what those ordered pairs would be. So for example, I would look at the first one, blue, find my color blue, and then I would read the ordered pair of blue, starting with x comma y. So I start at my origin, I go over in my x-axis to figure out where blue would lie, and it looks like it's at 1. Then I would go up on my y-axis to figure out what the y-coordinate of blue would be, and it looks like it's at 3. So 1 comma 3 would be my ordered pair for blue. If you're having a tough time with any of these problems, remember you can call me, text me, you may email me as well. Make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel and the videos, and be sure to click on the description box because I will include some additional practice links onto today's video, as well as links to other YouTube videos that you can watch that may help you with what we're doing today. All right, bye.